Today, we're creating our own summer sunshine, made from scraps. Welcome to Up All Night DIY. I'm Monica. Thanks for joining me. Since we're in the middle of a heat wave, I thought we could make a kinder, gentler sunshine of our own. I have a scrap piece of foam left over from my candy head jack project, and I cut a classic sun shape from a cardboard box. We'll also be using Model Magic and some Sobo craft glue. I grabbed a big old handful of clay, and I'm kneading it to condition it. I'm flattening it with my brayer. I really need to get myself an acrylic rolling pin. So I place my cardboard sun on top of it, and I'm going to cut out the shape, leaving a wee bit of a border. This doesn't have to be perfect, I just want to get, the general shape. I'm going to repeat this, giving me 2 clay sun shapes, one for the front and one for the back of the cardboard. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just general shape works fine. I'll cover the cardboard with some Sobo craft glue, but you know what, any craft glue will do. This is just what I had on hand. This is going to help the clay adhere to the cardboard, I hope. I'm going to add the cardboard to the clay, matching up the shape best I can, and then I'll fold the clay over the edges. You get the general idea, right? Now I'm going to repeat this on the other side, and I'm going to trim off any excess. I'll faff with the shape a wee bit. This guy is going to be cartoonish, so you know me. I'm not going to be too fussy. Now I flatten more clay to cover the foam, which I'm going to lay right over top of it. Now I'm going to press it to the foam, making sure that it's really well stuck, and I'll cut off any excess, and I'm going to take the excess and fill in any of the gaps. I am going to cover the back of this foam too. There's a wee section here that feels like it might be broken. Hopefully that holds together. So once I get the back covered, I'm going to roll it around on the table to smooth it out, smooth out the front a wee bit. Alright, so I'm going to spread more glue onto the half ball and some on the flat sun shape. I'll press the half ball, the dome, onto the backer. Okay, so now I roll out a long log of clay. This is to fill in that gap between the dome and the backer because there is a good bit of space there. So I'm just going to wrap it around and push it into that gap and onto the backer itself. My clay was drying out, so I'll add a wee bit of water and I'll incorporate it into the existing clay by rolling my brush handle over it and also using my fingers. I'll also use this clay tool that I have, and I'll do this until it's smooth. I flatten a wee bit more clay, and I'm going to cut out his eyes. I did cut out the shape from cardstock, laid it over top of the clay, and I'm just going to trace around it with my clay tool to cut it out. I'm actually going to use scissors here to cut out the eyes. And then I'm going to press them right into place. I broke a toothpick in half, which I'll use to anchor his nose. I'm just going to push it right between his eyes. I roll a small ball of clay, and I'm going to pop it onto the toothpick. See? To make his cheeks, you know the deal. We roll out a ball of clay and cut it in half. I'll press them just below his eyes. I roll my brush handle over the edge of the cheeks to integrate it with the clay on his face. And now I'm going to push my clay tool up into the underside of his cheeks to make his dimples. You could use a brush handle for this too, that works just as good. Now I'm going to use my little pointy tool here and carve in his smile. I usually just paint it on, but you know what? We're mixing it up here. Living large. I roll out a small clay snake. I'm going to cut it in half and I'll round out the edges and I'm going to pop them in for his eyebrows, just above his eyes, giving them a little arch. And now I'm going to let him dry overnight. He's mostly dry. There is a wee bit of cracking, probably from the water that I used, because as the water dries, of course it shrinks the clay. But anyway, we're going to make his hands. To do that, I'll roll out 2 balls of clay, and I'll flatten them slightly using the palm of my hand. To make his arms, I roll out a log of clay. I want them to be about the same thickness as his hands. Just checking for proportions. I'll cut this in half. This way I know that the arms are equal in thickness. And I'm going to round out the ends a wee bit. I push half a toothpick into the hand and I'm going to push the arm onto that toothpick. There we go. Let's make his fingers. I rolled a snake and I'm going to cut off small segments and attach them to his hand. He's getting a thumb, of course. And like a true cartoon character, he's going to get 3 fingers. And I'm going to roll the ends of the snake before pushing the fingers on. I kind of want to round them out. You know what I mean? Okay, so now he needs that rolled cuff to his cartoon gloves. So we're going to add that. I add some Sobo to his hands before attaching them to the sun. And I'm going to press them, to fit the shape, to form around that domed shape. You know what I mean. So now I'm going to let him dry overnight. I'll base coat him with 2 coats of Ceramcoat Pale Yellow. Now I'm going to come in and dry brush with Americana Sunset Gold, particularly around his features and the edges. And now I'm going to come in and dry brush on some Ceramcoat Bittersweet Orange. I really want the color, to pick up any bumps and kind of highlight it, if you know what I mean. Get in the edges and the creases and the nooks and crannies. And now I want to bring in some turquoise. This is Ceramcoat turquoise. Again, I'm just adding a touch and I'm dry brushing. I'm using Ceramcoat North Sea to paint in his smile and his eyes. It's a really pretty deep teal color. Very pretty. He's starting to come together. He's a very summery guy. And we'll just finish this up here. With my detail brush, I'll add an outline along the rays with Americana Warm Sunset. again, to give him that cartoony look. I used the end of a skewer to add bittersweet orange dots to embellish his rays. And while those dots dry, I'm going to paint his gloves with 2 coats of Ceramcoat white. I almost forgot to give him character lines, so I'm going to come in with Bittersweet Orange and add a couple of character lines next to his eyes. Now that the orange dots are dry, I'm going to come back in and dip dot over the orange dots with turquoise, with slightly smaller dots so that the orange is still visible. We'll dot his eyes with turquoise right there in the corner too. White dot highlights on his cheeks and nose, and a tiny wee white highlight in his eyes. I want his gloves to stand out a wee bit more, so I'm going to add a turquoise outline to his gloves. Not like a full outline, just a suggestion, I guess. I'm not 100% feeling that, so I'm going to come in with some Folk Art Floating Medium, and I'm going to feather out those turquoise lines. It's a clear gel medium. I prep my brush with it, and I just wash over the turquoise lines to diffuse them. See, it just kind of feathers it out a wee bit, and I do like that much better. Let's add a white swirl to his chin and some highlights over his eyebrows. Now I'm coming in and adding white dots to the dots on the rays too, also like a wee highlight. And finally, I'll pounce on some DecoArt multi-purpose sealer with a cosmetic sponge to seal him. I did poke a hole in the top sun ray to add a hanger if I want to, but I'm not sure I'm going to. We'll see. So that's him done. Let's take a look at Sunny Boy. I'm really happy that I got to use that scrap piece of styrofoam left over from Candy Head Jack. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but you know, I never throw any of that stuff away. Always comes in useful somewhere. I hope you like Sunny Boy, and I hope you have a fantastic 4th of July. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. Stay creative, my friends. Thanks for hanging with me. See you next time. Up all night with Monica.